Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, and we're going to talk about the power of what Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition can give back to people. Specifically, three things: faith, place, and family. So I'm a huge fan of, specifically, I'm a really big fan of Breaking Hill, and they're a specific news source. They're very independent. I think they're probably the most independent news source that actually exists in America today. And I really like them. I'm a big fan. Crystal and Sagar are their main two reporters. They're the ones who are, kind of the anchors of the entire channel. And they had on a gentleman by the name of Chris Arnade, and he summarized something that I had never heard summarized so well and so succinctly and so powerfully. And it really made me think. So what he said is that he said essentially, there's a massive cultural divide today, and the divide is getting wider between blues and reds. And actually, specifically, he didn't say blues and reds. I should say this. He said elites and back rows. He said back row is the term that he uses for the people who are kind of the opposite of the elites, less educated, and people who are really just getting the short end of the stick in this whole March 2020 debacle that we're now in, right? And basically, like, these people were told, oh, you have to go to work, but you can't have a barbecue. And so, like, this guy Chris Arnade, he says it so clearly and so powerfully that the point is made right away. You know what he's talking about. And I'll tell you right now, as a commentator, I try to get my point across, and I'll tell you, nuance is absolutely detested on the internet, and it's vastly ignored. And people, you'll make a point, and people will dumb it down and say something that you didn't say, right? But this guy is good at making his point without nuance, right? By just choosing the words well. I'm working on that skill. I'm trying. I try to get better at making my content both compelling and entertaining and unique. Right? I think that that's what I'm shooting for with my. So I have a goal for Dungeons & Dragons, and I think the vast majority of my channel is trying to achieve that goal for Dungeons & Dragons, right? Which is to make sure that Dungeons & Dragons is not surpassed by any board game or any video game. It's a horribly unfair fact of our world that any video game or board game would have more players or more public be known by more of the public. It's an atrocity. It's like a modern atrocity that any board game or video game would ever surpass Dungeons and Dragons, because they simply don't deserve it, right? Dungeons and Dragons brought unbound identity and unbound immersion to the masses. Increasingly, we're finding that, while a lot of people like to say video games are super helpful and just are so good for young people, increasingly parents are like, maybe you should play less of them, right? And so common knowledge is breaking away from what we're being told that video games are just the best for young kids, right? But increasingly parents are like, I'm not seeing that, right? So and board games, they're just there's nothing transformative about them, right? So basically where we want to land, right, is that we want to get Dungeons & Dragons in a space that is where it deserves to be overall. Okay. And so basically, one of the things that, as we're moving forward, so Chris Arnaud's point is that is that there's a group of people in America who really are, back to the wall, have virtually no resources, and they're very angry with elites, right? And Chris Arnade sums it up perfectly. He says, the reason they're angry with elites is elites in America have made it all about secular materialism. And what they've taken from the back rows, right, the back row people, is the following. They've taken away faith, place, and family. Now, what does he mean by this, right? It's a pretty powerful statement. So by faith, he's saying, and I definitely get this, right? I'll tell people I'm a Christian. I go to church every and actually one thing is when it's appropriate. There are some circles where I know it's not even appropriate to mention God, right? So I don't in those circles. But if I'm like at a party or something, and a subject comes up, I'll say, oh well, I'm an evangelical Christian, and you could hear you could see people like be repulsed just by the statement, right? And so many people they feel that the idea that someone would believe in a God in the sky who judges people and brings some to heaven and brings some to the hot place is utterly repugnant, right? And the elites have taken faith away. Like, people don't feel that they can even say they're a Christian anymore. They have to be very careful where they even utter those words, right? Place, right? A lot of these people haven't gotten the jab and they don't have the paper, right? And so he's saying the elites have said, you don't get place. You stay in your little cave and you do not poke your head out, right? So that place has been taken from them, right? And last is family, right? So I'm definitely here. Now, actually, I'm lucky. I had my kids. Actually, I guess I'm not lucky. When I tell people I have 4 kids, a lot of people you could see, like, they don't say it, but they're like, you could see the 30 seconds where they're like, oh my gosh, you're not at carbon zero, right? You brought 4 human beings into this world. And right now the question is if anybody should bring anybody into this world, right? So again, the elites have made it so that people need to be ashamed of having a family. So I get what this guy Chris Arnade is saying. There are groups of people where they have had faith, place, and family taken from them, right? They have to hide these aspects of their lives. They can't be out. They can't be free and open with who they are. They have to deny their identity, because their identity is no longer safe as a God-fearing person who wishes to go out and be out, right? And talk about their large family, right? That kind of person is, they have to hide who they are today, right? And that's hard when you have to hide who you are, right? Like, there are communities that it's difficult when you can't even admit who you are in public because people are trying to deny your identity has less value, right? So Chris Arnade summed this up perfectly. What I think is fascinating is Dungeons & Dragons has the power to give every single one of these back, right? Now, it can only do it right now with online games, right? Because of the no jab, no paper, right? Any dungeon master can't really have a physical game with those people today, right? Like, but online, Dungeons & Dragons, because it has Dungeons & Dragons Beyond, has the ability to give every single one of these things back. They're like, oh, you believe in God in the sky who judges and like brings some people to heaven and some people to the hot place? Well, in this game, there are multiple gods, right? And the question of whether their faith is foolish or repugnant is a non-question. The gods are real. Their power is unquestioned. And your character will literally have the power of the gods in them, right? So, like, that's giving faith back to these people. Place, right? Okay, we're on an online game, right? I can't physically meet with you because you don't have the jab and you don't have the paper, right? But since we're on an online game, I can give you not just the ability to go out to your local convenience store. I could take you to 7 different worlds. I could take you to Eberron. I could take you to Exandria. I could take you to Faerun. I could take you to all these different incredible. I could take you to Strixhaven. Arcavios. That's the world where Strixhaven is. I could take you to, just so many of these incredible. I don't know if I said Exandria, but just all these incredible worlds, right? You're no longer trapped. So we can give them place back, right? And through backstory, we can say, oh, hey, do you have 4 or 5 siblings? No one's going to shame you here for because your parents had children, right? Nobody's going to ask if your family is carbon zero, right? Nobody's going to. You don't have to hide that you have siblings in this game. We can give you family back. And it's so funny to me because everybody in the comments, I don't have a single person who's saying, yeah, I see it, Scott. You're right. Unbound identity and unbound immersion are Gary Gygax's true legacy. I've never had anybody say that in the comments, not one, right? But everybody's like, oh, Scott, Dungeons & Dragons just like Chutes and Labradors. It's a non-transformative game, right? It doesn't do anything. And I'm like, holy cows, this guy identifies that we have a massive divide in America, that there's a growing frustration between people, right? And here, Dungeons and Dragons can literally give a fix can give back the elements that have caused all this division, all this frustration, right? And Dungeons and Dragons can give it back. It can say, hey, you've lost faith, place, and family. The elites have taken it from you. I'm a dungeon master and I can give it back. Right? Oh, but we're all supposed to just believe Dungeons and Dragons just shoots and ladders. It's non-transformative. Gary Gygax's legacy is a couple of rules scrawled on a piece of paper. Right? It doesn't change people's lives. How ludicrous. Open your eyes. See what's in front of you. See the power you hold as a dungeon master and hold it in incredible respect and awe. We are moving beyond normal humanity. The ability to give people extra lives to live in this world, right? The ability to transport people to new worlds, the ability to allow people to no longer be trapped in a single identity, no longer be trapped in the antiquated stories they get from Hollywood, the antiquated stories that are, shoved in with the latest DC, DLC from video games. We can, no longer be trapped in the incredibly limited stories of books. We can craft incredible stories that are tailor-made to protect their emotional safety, their social safety, and be compelling and entertaining and improving. We have the ability to literally improve people's lives. Just open your eyes. The power of the Dungeon Master is incredibly, incredibly broad, and it can no longer be denied, in my opinion. All that is my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.